RBI has already cut its interest rate by 25 basis point. Now what to expect ahead? To talk more on this, we are joined by Neeraj Gambhir, who's the Treasury Head of Axis Bank. Pleasure to have you here on Business Today. Sir, I'd start by asking you that, the rates have already been cut. When do you expect the banks to adjust the deposit rates accordingly?
So at this point in time, what is happening is that the rates on the lending side, which are linked to repo, those will get recalibrated in line with what the regulation says, which is once in a quarter. So each bank will adjust their rates. On the liability side, on the deposit side, I think we're still in a little bit of a tight liquidity situation. We haven't seen any reduction in money market rates. We haven't seen the CD rates come down or the bulk deposit rates come down. So I think in this quarter, we'll continue to see this kind of a scenario, as this quarter is typically very heavy from a banking business perspective. So all banks are very interested in growing the liability side of the balance sheet, and the liquidity is tight. So I would think that maybe any changes to the liability side of the business will only be probably coming through in the next quarter, not necessarily in this quarter.
What sort of liquidity measures can the regulator take, as the money markets rates haven't been adjusted yet, as you just said?
So the system liquidity has swung into a deficit, and a fairly large deficit over a short period of time. And a lot of this deficit is on account of FX intervention by RBI, right? So this does require Reserve Bank to introduce or inject long-term durable liquidity in the system. Reserve Bank has been doing it. I think they're kind of calibrating between what they're providing to the system as a short-term liquidity, which means overnight VRRs or 2-3 days VRRs, and longer-term liquidity in the form of FX swaps and open market operations. We've seen a steady increase in the OMOs. We've seen a new swap announcement today of $10 billion for 3 years. So clearly Reserve Bank is calibrating it over a period of time. I think the overall liquidity injection of a longer duration required in the system is quite significant. So I do expect this to continue for quite some time.
Do you expect another rate cut in April?
I would say that it's possible, though that's not what our house view is. Our house view was also not for this rate cut, but our view is that what is required for sustaining the growth is a lot more than rate cuts. The rate cuts will obviously help, but they are not the magical solution for growth to come back. A lot of this growth is on account of the government spending being rear-ended, the credit growth in the system coming down, the liquidity in the system being tight. So if we need to address growth, we need to address these factors as well. Obviously, as the inflation has come down and RBI's projection of inflation is coming closer to 4%, it does accord Reserve Bank some leeway to cut rates, but we'll have to see whether Reserve Bank wants to use that leeway in April or want to keep it for maybe a later point in time.
Talking about the weakening of the rupee, how do you view the situation, and what levels do you see the rupee can be going at in the coming time?
So we've seen a fairly decent amount of depreciation that has happened and adjustment that has happened. If you see the EMFX, benchmark, rupee has actually now depreciated more or less in line with what rest of the emerging markets have done. If you look at starting from October 23 to what has happened, right? So a fair bit of rupee adjustment has actually happened. But the challenge that we face is at this point in time, the portfolio flows have not come back, right? So I do expect the pressure on rupee to continue if the dollar stays strong, and the emerging market flows continue to be weak. And that depreciation will obviously be contended to or managed by Reserve Bank through its active intervention. So I'm not going to put a number on where we will go, but I do feel that some steady depreciation will continue for some time.
All right. Thank you so much for those insights.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.